Hi everyone, and welcome to a new edition of CXO Interview, where we give you a unique first-hand look into tech and IT companies operating in Serbia through the eyes of their top managers and CEOs. And this is a story about company culture, working conditions, technologies they're working with, people they're looking for, their challenges, and what it's really like to be a part of their teams. I'm very pleased to have here with me Laurent Decrue. Have I pronounced well? Thank
Yeah,
you.
very good.
Okay, and I'm Tatiana Vidakovic from Hello World. So let's dive in. Laurent, for those who might not be so familiar with Holycode, you were founded in 2014 in Serbia, and you are one of the co-founders. The others two are from Serbia. So how did it start? It's an interesting story.
Yeah, I mean, it started exactly because of that, right? So my two co-founders, Nenad and Milan Nikolic, they're both from Serbia. Nenad already lived in Switzerland, and we were both working on our startup at that time called Movu, which was a digital moving platform that we successfully sold at some point to Ballos Insurance. And when we started, we were really struggling to find good developers in Switzerland that we could actually afford to pay for. So we then started looking into Portugal because I wanted to go surf. And we hired the first people there, but we were just unlucky with the partner that we had. We didn't get the right people on board. And then Nenad, as my co-founder and technical co-founder, basically said, "Hey, I know some people in Serbia. Milan, his brother, was one of them. Let's hire them." And that's basically how we started in Serbia with Holycode. And then after time, or even after a couple of months already, other startups came to us and said, you started hiring people in Serbia. Can you also hire some people for me? I'm not happy with my agency in, I don't know, Poland or Portugal or wherever it was. And that's basically how it started growing by itself at that point.
Oh, interesting. And can you tell us something about your core business? What's your primary activity,
So when we started in 2014, we were really a dedicated nearshoring model. So we built teams for our clients, all focused around technology. So anything from UX designer, PO, PMs, front end, back end, QA, manual, QA automation, Scrum masters, all around these topics. We built teams for our clients that are hired with us. We take care of the teams, but they work specifically for one client for the long term. So they have like the double culture, right? They're part of their culture, but they're also part of our culture. That's how we started. And that's what we did exclusively until 2019. At that point, I think we were close to 150 people. And then we said, okay, that's fantastic, but we want to do more than just, in parentheses, build a nearshoring team for our client, right? So we set up the goal to really build from the idea to the IPO every technological service that you need as a startup or a scale up, and that you can source that through us. So we then started a daughter company called Holy ERP, where we do ERP development for Microsoft Business Central and Odoo and some other tools. We then took over a software agency. It was called Eton Digital at the time. Now it's called Holycode Products, based in Belgrade, Niš, and Novi Sad, with around 70 employees, and keep growing that. And then we also founded a no-code, low-code agency with around 10 people that Milan, one of my co-founders, is now leading, where we really help build fast MVPs and start really easy, basically, for startups. And now, obviously, like everybody else in the industry, we're also building an AI team. And we have partners for DevOps and cybersecurity. So we're really trying to, along this journey of whatever you need as a startup scale up, to cover all these technological services. And today we're around 420 employees. The majority of them are based in Serbia. Yeah, that's how we grew.
Yeah. So your clients are mainly startups?
Yes, the majority, or for a long time, our clients were basically just startups and scale-ups. Then at some point, we started growing a little bit into the corporate segment, more because the corporates maybe bought one of those startups and then decided, that's actually a cool model. Let's also work with Holycode. But overall, we are from the startup industry, us founders. So this is what we know the best. And that's why it was always closest to our heart and easiest to work with startups for us. So we have around 150 clients today. Out of those 150 clients, I would say 120 to 130 are startups and scale-ups. Then we have around 10 corporates that we work with. And now we have, let's say, 15 to 20 maybe SMEs. So SMEs is the market that we're currently focusing on more because we see they have a lot of the same challenges as startups and scale-ups. And, you know, with the younger generation coming in, the boomers going out of the market and the next generation taking over, they need to digitalize a lot of them.
So I also saw that you have, I think, 7 hubs or in 4 countries. Okay. So what are plans for some future expansion, either in terms of markets, industries, or
so we currently have, I mean, the holding, the main entity is in Switzerland. We have offices in Basel and in Zurich. Then we have 3 delivery centers in Serbia, Belgrade, Niš, and Novi Sad. Those are the biggest ones. So I think in total we have more than 350 people in Serbia. Then we have 1 in Romania, Bucharest, with around 40 people. And then we have really small offices in Germany, Munich, the UK, London, and Miami in the United States, which are basically sales offices. We just have sales representatives there that are helping us get into the market. So for now, there's no plan to add additional hubs in that sense, but really just make sure we have a proper setup in the markets that we're in. So that's Switzerland, Germany, UK, and the USA. The only place we're currently looking at a little bit opportunistic is Portugal. Yeah, I mean, for me, that would be full circle. We wanted to start in Portugal. It didn't work. So now 11 years later, we maybe start in Portugal after all. But it's not clear yet. It's just something we're looking into.
Okay.
And then you ask in terms of industries. So I think there it's very clear. We're quite sector agnostic. So we have a lot of startups that come from medtech, from fintech, from the SaaS work tech area. We have real estate, prop tech, food, mobility, more and more robotics and AI as well. So we're quite sector agnostic in that sense, but our segment that we focus on is still startups and scale-ups. But the one thing we will add now or are already adding is SMEs. We really want to focus more on SMEs going forward.
Okay. And let's jump for a second into Serbian IT market. So I saw at your website what you wrote about Serbian IT professionals. Okay, I will read a few sentences.
All right.
Their strong analytical thinking and dedication to solving client problems is what sets Serbia apart as an exceptional nearshoring destination. The shared cultural patterns, above average English skills, and excellent work culture ensure high-level communication with clients from all over the world. So, could you give us, your your impression about Serbian IT professionals? What are their advantages? What are their disadvantages comparing to other markets? You work in different countries, so you have a good view.
Yeah, I think it's always difficult to say, a population as a whole, like developers in one country or one country against another. That's very, very difficult because it just simplifies everything a little bit. But yeah, let's do the exercise anyway. So I think what Serbian developers are quite strong at is what you said, the analytical skills. I think they tend to think for themselves. I feel that there's a really good English level in general in the Serbian IT market. And even though it's a technical job, communication is still a very big part of it. That's something that I see they're strong at. What I like a lot is the loyalty. I really see that we have a lot of very loyal, long-term employees in the development area that are not just jumping to the next job the minute they get a better offer, because you will always get a better offer in this industry. That's just the way it works, right? So those are definitely some of the things that I like a lot. And then in the beginning, I would think 10 years ago, that was different. Today, it's much better, is the outspokenness. 10 years ago, I felt like I cannot say this was a Serbian thing, right? But for the developers from Serbia, it was really difficult for them to speak up if they had a different opinion compared to their bosses. And I was one of them, right? So we had to really work a lot on that. Today, I feel like this has become standard. People, if they don't agree, they speak up and they explain why. And I think that's the best way of making sure you build the right things, is if you have a development team that can stand up for their opinion and explain why they think that is. And that's something that I've seen change in the last 10 years, and in at least the people we hired in Serbia, to the better. So that's something that I really appreciate and I really like. And it's not always easy, as you know. I mean, if we generalize, developers are usually not the most outgoing kind of people. They're a bit more introvert, very technical, very analytical. So for them to speak up like that is probably not an easy thing to do. But yeah, that's something I see people do really well in Serbia compared to other markets.
Okay, and let's go to some tough question. For example, in light of global economic turbulence and a slowdown in this tech sector, did you have to make some tough decisions? How Holycode has been impacted, and have you had to make decisions such as layoffs or hiring freezes in that terms?
Yes, unfortunately, that's the reality of business. Not everything goes up all the time, right? I wish it would. I mean, I'm one of the co-founders. For me, that would be the best thing for it to happen. But there's always ups and downs. Last year, we had to let go at one stage, I think, 5 people from the, let's say, the core administration team. And we got a really bad feedback on online platforms, on Reddit and stuff like that. And I was a bit surprised, to be honest, because we let go 5 out of 400 people. I mean, it was a hard decision and it was not fun for us, but it was 5 out of 400 people. And we got a shitstorm saying like, yeah, this is not a good company. They don't take care of their people, even though we gave them very long notice periods. And we always try to make sure that if someone has to leave, we can find a place for them to be afterwards. So that to me felt a bit like there's a double standard being used here. Everyone wants to have a job in the industry, but nobody wants to have the risk of, hey, in reality, it can happen that we have a bad year at some point. So that was a small one, but for me, hard to understand, because in an economical surrounding, you will face downturns at some points. And if we only have to let go 5 out of 400 people in the company, I think we're actually doing a tremendous job at that point compared to a lot of our competitors that had to cut 20-30% of staff. So that was a bit disturbing to me. But yeah, everyone can say online what they want to say. Nobody went and said it to my face. So that's also a bit a different story. And it's probably people that were not from the company itself, but just someone in the market. Unfortunately, this year as well, it's been tough. So just this week, we will probably have to let go 10 people from the agency, because we just don't have enough work at the moment out of the market. We had, and then 2 of the big projects, they stopped during the summer holidays, and that's worst timing for you to try and get people staffed to a different project. So yeah, unfortunately there we will also have to cut at this point a little bit. Maybe we grew too fast in hindsight. The team was 20 people less a year ago. Now we're 20 people more, and we have to readjust downwards 10 people again. So that is not going to be a nice situation for us this week either. It's taking a bit of my sleep, to be honest, because that's really not how we want to run the company, but it's the reality at the moment. The market is extremely tough, and we're going back now to a platform that we say, this is stable, we can maintain this for the long term, and then see that we can grow from there again.
And what do you think? What's your view on the current state of the global IT market? Just to add that, how the things will happen in the future? What do you think?
So let's go back a little bit. In 2022 was the high time of IT development, right? So everyone was looking for people. It was crazy. There was a huge shortage in developers worldwide, not just in Serbia, right? Worldwide. And then when the situation in Ukraine escalated, suddenly, and the inflation started picking up much more, suddenly it changed, right? So there was a lot less investment globally, Big companies were starting to lay off people. In Serbia as well, a lot of our competitors had to lay off a lot of their employees. The market really cooled down. And then in parallel to that, you have this whole AI wave that is happening, right? Which is somewhere between a hype and a new reality for us in this industry. So you make developers much more efficient by adding AI to their toolbox. So do you still need the same amount of developers or not? That's a big question, right? Going forward. So what has happened in the last 2 years is it's become much harder for a developer to find a job. I think the salary levels have come under pressure globally. You can also see it on a lot of the statistics that the salaries are actually declining globally for the development market. So we're past this peak high time of the IT industry. Now the question is this a dip? And in 2 years, it's going to come back? Is this the new reality that because of AI, the whole market is changing? That's a fear that I'm carrying with myself. And I think that's a fear that also a lot of the developers and engineers out there are carrying with themselves is what is AI going to do with this industry and my position, basically. The only thing that I can say is try to be on top of it, learn your part around AI, make sure that you are well educated in it, and then I think you should be fine. There will always be a need for good developers. For us as a company, I see challenges, right? So the nearshoring business, I'm quite certain this is going to continue. Companies always will need good teams of developers, and maybe they just need to be a bit more AI focused in the future. Fine, we can figure that out. The software agency business, that's the one that I'm more worried about. How is AI going to transform that, right? We build proof of concepts. We build MVPs for clients. We build big platforms. I think the big platform business will stay, but the MVPs and the proof of concepts and all of these things with AI, you can just do that so much faster, so much easier. How is this business going to transform? We don't know today. We work on it. We try to be as prepared as possible and use AI wherever we can. But honestly, I don't know how this is going to transform. But I think it's a very, very interesting period to be alive, honestly.
Yes, yes. I agree with you completely. So you already mentioned, your business model is focused on building these nearshore teams. Can you explain us benefits for your clients comparing to some traditional approach?
So why do people hire nearshoring teams with us is relatively simple. There's a couple of reasons. One, the developers that you can find maybe in Switzerland or Germany would be more expensive. I think that was the case up until 2 or 3 years ago. Now, especially in Germany, since the market is not that great, I think the salary levels of Serbia and Germany are actually the same, which is crazy if you think about it. But that's where we are. So for Switzerland, this still holds up. The second is you just don't find the developers yourself. Maybe you're a small company. You don't have a big reputation. So it's really hard for you to find these really good and talented and hardworking engineers in your market, right? And that's why they come to us, because Holycode has a good reputation, I believe, in the Serbian development market. So it's easier for us to get to people that really would like to work on such a project with the security of being at a bigger company like Holycode at the same time. Right. So it's a bit of a double dip. You get to, as an engineer, work on extremely interesting future oriented startups. So cutting edge technology, really new ideas out there in the market. But at the same time, you have the security that you're part of this bigger organization called Holycode, which if something goes wrong can help you figure out the next steps or put you on the next project and stuff like that. So it's this double security net from an engineer side, and from a client side, it's this, we get good engineers for good prices, and we have someone really managing and taking care of our team. So it's the whole package for them, basically.
Mm-hmm. So I've read reviews on Hello World, and I saw,
interesting.
Yes, it's interesting, and people say that you have very challenging interview and hiring process. So can you tell us something about that? About people you're looking for. Mm-hmm.
So this is different for every client, right? Some clients are quite laid back in the sense they say, look, I'm looking only for seniors. Why should I do a test task or anything like that? I'll just do an interview with them, ask them a couple of questions, and I'll know if they're good or not. Okay, easy. But the majority of our clients, actually, we have like a 4-step setup. So usually we have an HR cultural fit interview first. Then we have a first interview with the client. Then we do a tech task or a live coding session, depending on what the client wants. And then we have a final interview where you have to explain why you did what you did in that tech task or live coding session. And depending on who is the person that is evaluating this with you from the client side, this can be harder or less hard to pass, right? But yes, usually startup CTOs that or head of engineerings that are doing these things, they tend to be quite intense. So I don't want to scare anyone. I think we have a good pass ratio in the end. But yeah, the interviews with us are not easy because at the end of the day, we need to make sure that the people that we hire for those teams are the best people available. So it's not a walk in the park if you want to become part of Holycode.
Okay. So, reading also reviews, I saw that you have a very, very good mark for your team culture and atmosphere. It's
Nice.
4.6 out of 5, which is great. And for me, it was very interesting because on the other side, you are building these nearshore teams, and people work for clients. You already said work for clients, but on the other hand, they are also part of the Holycode. So it's very interesting to have such a good mark, and the other side to have challenges because people are not exclusively working with in Holycode. So how did you solve that really? How did you achieve to get such a good result in such a good mark for 4.6?
So that's our magic sauce that I cannot share, right? No, I mean, in the end, I think what we've focused on from the start was really taking good care of our employees. So we have an amazing HR and administration team at Holycode that has meetings with the developers regularly. We have a lot of internal events where you can participate. I think you can also see that online. We have quite a few options for developers to have, free lunch in the office or breakfast in the office so that they come together and meet with each other. We have sports options outside of it. We have English and German classes. We do a lot of fun stuff outside of the work hours to get them to bond with each other. And we're always there to support them if they need something, right? So I think the combination of all these things and really having an HR team that takes good care of them makes them feel part of something at Holycode, while the majority of their time they actually work with a client on their issues and in their setting and in their culture. So it's quite interesting to see that the developers are feeling part of two cultures at the same time. The goal is that the bond with the client is the strongest one, that you really feel part of this team, right? And then in a second stage that you also feel part of Holycode as your bigger setting, basically, right? So you can maybe compare it if you would be working in a big corporate. You're probably bonding with the people around you, and that's like the team that you work with. That's the people you get up to work with, and that's why you like working there. And then in a second round, you probably like the place you work at. Let's say it's Microsoft. Maybe you're still a fan of Microsoft and you like it, right? And I think it's a bit the same with Holycode. The inner cell is your team that you're working in, and then the surrounding layer is Holycode, basically. And I think that works quite well.
Okay, you gave me great introduction. It's time for tough question. So, one common criticism in employee reviews says that Holycode rents developers to other companies, giving the impression that employee work exclusively for clients, not Holycode. You already gave me a response for that question, but would you explain me better? How would you respond to this perception and what distinguishes your model? Really, you already said what's part of your magic sauce, but what would you tell to these people who say that this is the biggest disadvantages for working for Holycode?
if you work in the Holycode nearshoring setup, yeah, then that's right. I mean, you join us for a specific client project that you're hired for. And while doing the interview process, you know which project you're going to work on. So if that's not for you, then just don't take the interview, right? I mean, it's very simple. We also have the area where in the software agency and in the no-code agency and in the ERP agency, where you work directly only for Holycode, and then through us, you work on certain client projects for a month, 2 months, or 6 months. If that's more you think, apply for that. Fantastic. Let's do it, right? But in the end, we're not trying to push people into something they don't want to do. So either you want to join one project for the long term with the stability of being at Holycode, then that's the right thing, the nearshoring setup. Or you want to work on several projects in parallel, then you should join our software agency or our no-code agency. But that's something the developer needs to know for himself before applying to the job. What is it that he or she is looking for?
Okay. So for almost the end of our conversation, I would like to point to also a few things that people say about Holycode. They said that you have a very high project satisfaction, and the upskilling has a great mark among your people. Would you tell us something about that?
Yeah, I mean, we do our best to make sure that people can get better and upskill. So we also always negotiate with the client educational budgets to make sure that if you want to go to a conference or if you want to go to a course or if you want to learn a new skill, that there's budget available for you to do that and that there's time set aside for you to do that. Because I think that's very important, right? If our goal is to have people stay with us on the same project 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years of their career. So we now have the first people that have been with us for more than 10 years that we were celebrating in the last couple of months. This is amazing. That's exactly what you want. But you cannot stay in a company for 10 years if you're not upskilling, if you're not getting better, right? So it is one of our intrinsic motivations to make everybody better at what they're doing. That's also why we offer free German and free English classes. I mean, that's just a skill that you will take with yourself wherever you go in the future. That's one part, but then obviously also on the job, we have educational budgets so that you can learn about AI, you can go deeper into DevOps or whatever it is that you're interested in. And it's cool to see that this is being, rated accordingly as one of the benefits that we really offer.
So, and what's your philosophy behind that work-life balance and compensation? Because also you have great marks for that.
Awesome. Good. We do say to our clients that it's absolutely okay if people need to do overtime from time to time, because if you have a release, if you're at the end of a very intense sprint, this can happen, but it should not be the norm. We want people to work the agreed amount of hours, and we want them to be very efficient and productive during that time and not have to do much more. Because, I mean, there's lots of studies, especially from the Scandinavian countries, that show if you work more, you're not getting more effective or more efficient or more productive. So this is really something we're trying to make sure that if you need to do over hours, you can compensate it at some point, that usually you work the hours agreed. I think it's 40 hours a week with a break. So that's something we're really big on, and I can see that it works because people stay for the long term, right? We want people to be with us 10 years or plus. So this is a marathon and not a sprint. If we burn you out in a year from now, there's no good in it for anybody. And I think that works with the majority of our clients. With some of them, you sometimes have to, get them on board a little bit over time and teach them with our HR team and administration team on what they can expect and what they should expect. But that works quite well. So work-life balance is very important to us. And then on the salary side, I think that's just the benefit that you work with Western European and US companies. They usually just have a higher financial power. And the people they hire in their markets are definitely not cheaper. So it's a little bit easier maybe to get a good salary. But at the same time, we're not in the business of overpaying people in Serbia drastically, because then in a year from now, this will catch up and the client says you're too expensive and we have to let you go. So overall, I think you get very good compensation with Holycode, but it's not outside of what you could expect if you're a really good developer in the market in Serbia.
Okay. Thank you for this, I would say, fast but unique and first-hand look into Holycode. Thank you for your time and preparedness to join us. So I'm sure that people will enjoy our interviews, and they will find more about Holycode. Thank you once more.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Tatiana.